morning, everyone. We have a great crowd this morning. I noticed that as my time as mayor is becoming short, more people are showing up. I'm not sure what it says, although one person said not only good luck, but good riddance. So.
No way.
So anyway, thank you all for being here. We do appreciate it. As always, I'm going to give you a brief update. Jess is also going to give you an update of what's going on. And then before we open it up for questions, we're going to try to answer some of the questions that we didn't have answers to last time. As you already know, the Holiday Inn Express is open finally, so we're really pleased about that. It took a little while, but it's been a wonderful addition. It just looks so much better down there, and they continue to make improvements to the English Village itself. On the Views, which is the independent living facility over there by ASU, they're now starting, I think, the third floor roughly. Fourth floor? Yeah, you're beginning to prepare for the fourth floor. So that's moving along rapidly as well, and it will be another great addition to our community. For those of you who were wondering, well, what's going on across from Home Depot out there?
Yep.
Horizon Community Bank that's land owned by them. They're going to have a small loan office out there, and then build some office space, etc., for lease in that area. I was actually out there for the groundbreaking. Thank you.
The golden shovel.
Let's see. People have been asking me what's going on at Swanson and Lake Havasu Avenue, where there used to be an old building there. It's been torn down. That will be a drive-through Starbucks.
And restaurant. That's about it.
Yeah, and
The one in the plaza.
yeah, the one in the plaza will close. And then, speaking of coffee, there is also, and let me pull it up here,
Colombian Joe.
Colombian Joe Coffee, another drive-through coffee place. That's going to be up at Jamaica and McCulloch next to the U-Haul place that's there. You see some plumbing going on. That's what that's all about. We got quite a few others. Rosati's Pizza is enclosing the outdoor patio to make it part of the restaurant. The Black Bridge Brewery is going to be locating at 91 London Bridge Road, which used to be the Chinese buffet. It's also next to Rosati's. They're actually located out of Kingman, so they're making improvements to the space to be a bar to sell beer, etc. The Heat Hotel has got some things in the planning and zoning, so it just on and on and on. Havasu Riviera is still moving along. We're still hoping to have that have access by late November, if not December, and so that project moves along well. There's just a ton of activity in town. I kind of got a kick out of the letter of the editor this morning that indicated that there's a downturn in our economy here in Lake Havasu City, and I was like, wow, okay. Do you say so? Everything else proves differently. Our economic activity, sales taxes, it's just been incredible, the activity in town. What we're really hoping to see is that in not too distant future, that some of the acreage that's to the north of us, between the airport and kind of where housing stops, we're hoping that goes out for bid and is sold for development. I think it would help in terms of a housing crunch that we have right now, but we'll see. That is going to be market driven, not city driven. We don't use taxpayer dollars to make sure that developments are built. So But that is, by the way, within our city limits. And yes, we have water to accommodate all of that. As I've said before, we're only using about half our water allocation. So we don't see that as a detriment. Some people keep asking me what's going to be at the old classic burger. Right now, the owner is quote unquote undecided, so we'll just leave it at that.
Do a little strip mall, like you said.
Yeah, there you go. Let's see.
Speak up.
Okay. Well. No, I'm not going to start all over. Jess, you want to kind of go through some of the projects we're working on?
Sure. Yeah, I have a few projects. We already talked about some of the private permits that have been pulled by the city, and I can talk about a few of the projects that the city is currently working on through our capital improvement program. One of them is we're doing a feasibility study for our environmental learning center. So some of you have participated in that survey. What that is going to be a future center that's going to include all things with regards to the lower Colorado River and from laboratories, water quality, sustainability, wildlife, a few different things that can be tapped into there for the community, for the residents, as well as visitors. The study we're doing right now is trying to get as many strategic and funding partnerships that we can. So if we get Game and Fish and ASU and many other agencies involved, then that'll be much more of an experience for everybody to have there. So the Havasu, the Riviera project that we've been talking about at each of the coffees the last few months, that's a project that continues to move forward. From the city standpoint, we've completed substantially the improvements on that area. We're as far as the infrastructure and the roadway that'll take the residents from 95 down to the new boat launch, and we have one little lift station to install, and then the stoplight will go up. Probably we're looking at now, and hopefully it'll be completed by a December time frame. So once that stoplight goes up, officially that area will be open and be able to be accessible by the public to check out that new area and the gorgeous views that are out in that area. So want to thank everybody for their patience as we have the road construction on Lake Havasu Avenue between Palo Verde South and Industrial. So everybody is screaming when they go through that area with some of the slowdown and the inconvenience, and certainly the businesses in that area. We're grateful for their patience, but in the end, we're looking at about a January time frame. We'll have 2 lanes in both directions, and then a concrete median in going down the middle of that area. So the improvements are going to be worthwhile. Just again, thank you for all your patience on that project. By the way, that's something that's ADOT administers that project. We contribute about $70,000, $80,000 for that project, and their contribution was about $1.2 million. So we love those projects when we spend a few dollars here in Havasu and get a much bigger bang for our buck. So I thank you for your patience on that one, and I'm going to have to thank you for your patience on Lake Havasu Avenue between Swanson and Mesquite here in the future. So we're going to start some project there, underground utilities, and then same type of format that I described between Industrial and South Palo Verde. We'll have 2 lanes in both direction, hard median. So it's really helpful from a safety perspective with the left turn lanes and oncoming traffic, things like that. In the end, it's going to be a fantastic intersection for us all to enjoy. We're finishing up with our annual water main replacement program. So you've seen some of those where you get those cuts down the middle of the street, and everybody wonders what's going on there. So we're finishing up with that project. Each year we take the funds that are available and identify the most needed water mains, and we do the improvements. And so we're finishing up with that program. By the way, when the main gets buried, you'll see kind of not a very good covering, asphalt covering. That's temporary. They'll come back into the end and do something a little bit more permanent. So we've had some comments about some of those efforts, and want to hear more from you if you have any issues. And we're starting finally we're starting the design for the bathroom improvements on Lennon Bridge Beach and in Rotary Park. So all the bathrooms will get a facelift, new infrastructure, new capacity, things like that to better handle our special events and day-to-day activities out in those areas, as well as a new additional restroom facility at the Rotary Park. So that's what I got, Mayor.
Okay. Let's see. The other thing we've talked about was the Lord Mayor of London coming here in October. That is still planned. We haven't heard anything different. We're trying to finalize his agenda for that because it's very, very full. We have so many things that we want him to do, and there's only so many hours in the day. But we have a number of dignitaries that are expected to be here as well. But what we hope to accomplish with that is to have some sort of agreement where on an annual basis they send 2, 3, 4, whatever it is, underserved students from London to Lake Havasu, campus of ASU. Because this Lord Mayor, one of his foundations is better education for everybody, and so we're hoping that we can come up with some agreement. The provost from ASU is expected to be here, so all in all, it should be a good day for the Lord Mayor. He's actually going to, we hope, if we can finally get this agenda finalized, he's supposed to pick a car at Run to the Sun, so it would be the Lord Mayor's Trophy, first time we've ever done that. We're still trying to figure out how we get some sheep to walk across the London Bridge. As I said before, since we are now freemen, we're allowed to do that. We did reach out to Kingman, but they said that all their sheep are going to be sold at the Mojave County Fair, so you can't use those. So I don't know, maybe we'll go down to Yuma and figure out what we can do.
Mojave Valley's got a lot of sheep.
Mojave Valley might have some sheep. We just want to make sure that they're very, very tame. Docile.
You don't want a wild and woolly time?
Do not want a wild and woolly time. Oh, boy. Oh, man. One of the things that came up last time was somebody asked about what sort of vehicles can be parked in neighborhoods. And I remember saying that I wasn't exactly sure, but I think it had to do with the number of axles and whatnot. So I got our code, and I should have probably highlighted it, but let me tell you what it says. Or maybe I won't tell you what it says. I don't know. Okay, it says, no person shall cause or permit a vehicle in excess of 2 tons rated chassis capacity, a gross vehicle weight in excess of 10,500 pounds, or any vehicle to be parked with more than 2 axles on any street except for loading and unloading. So that was the answer to that question. And Jess, I know you had quite a few questions that you followed up, and then we'll go to more questions that we'll have to answer next time, probably.
Yeah, sure. From the last meeting, we had a few requests that the city followed up on. One was at 471 Pueblo. The city was asked to take a look at that area. There's a report of some commercial activity happening in a residential area, and there's some complaints from the neighbors with noise and debris and just a little unsightly area. City addressed it. The area is now compliant. So we've worked through that, and from the city's perspective, that area is now in compliance. So appreciate the efforts of city staff as well as the folks at that address for helping out. We heard a complaint of some weeds on the southeast corner of 95 and Industrial. So we took a cruise out there within a couple of days of that complaint, cleaned up that area. So any concerns that were out there as far as visibility, we knocked that down. Additionally, you'll see we've graded and removed some of the weeds and placed down some rock up and down 95. So we've heard a lot of really good comments from the residents and from everybody here this morning is nodding, and I'm getting thumbs up. That's a good thing. So I think we got some rock that was donated by ADOT, and that's why we're placing it there. So I think we're going to continue some of those efforts even after the rock goes away. we'll look at doing something additional in those areas. And we're in continued conversations, by the way, with ADOT for some litter control and stuff on 95 as well too. But that's a ongoing effort. Lastly, there was also a complaint of a trampoline in the wash, and we took care of that. Actually, our city staff was already on top of it before I asked them to take care of it. So.
Yeah, now it's floating in the lake. Just kidding. Yeah, we took care of that. So anyway, as you can see, lots of things going on in Lake Havasu City. You know, I was looking at my calendar this morning, and now that we're coming into the cooler weather, there isn't a weekend that I don't have, a half a dozen events going on, which is great because this is the best time of year for all of us. Lots of great things happening. We got London Bridge Days coming up, Run to the Sun, the Lord Mayor coming, Fall Fun Fair. There's just so many events. It's just absolutely incredible. So with that, why don't I open it up to questions? Yes, sir.
Sarah Park Gun Range.
Mm-hmm.
Who owns that?
It's it's open, quote unquote, to the public on certain days, but that's I believe, a nonprofit organization.
Is that free to go in there?
I don't believe so.
It used to be, we've lived here 20 years and I've been shooting here for 20 years. Wednesdays and Sundays was free.
Well, I know that a couple days a week it is open to the public.
It's the
and
Sportsman's Club that runs it.
Sportsman's Club. I don't know if it's still free on those days.
Okay, but the thing is, you go in there now on a Wednesday, and you get harassed by some rent-a-cop on a golf cart wanting $5 from you.
We can certainly look into that.
And we told them where to go.
What, at the end of the range?
Yeah. It's just, you're getting harassed from the guy.
We can, we'll look into that because one of the agreements we have with them is that it's got to have public access because it's on BLM land.
Right.
So we'll look into it.
I used to get my yearly pass from our gun, and can't afford it anymore.
Okay, we'll look into it.
Okay.
Do you have a, make it?
Yours on it.
Yep,
Thank you.
you bet. Yes, sir.
The Golden Corral, what's the situation on that building structure or whatever? Are they?
They closed, which, they don't come to the city and tell us why. I know we were disappointed.
GC is out.
What's that?
Golden Corral is out.
That's what we have been told, and the doors are closed. We actually use the Golden Corral for our annual community dinner, so we're looking around for other opportunities there. But and I don't know what the plans are for in the future. I really don't. Yes, sir.
Yeah. My name is Bob Feliciano. I'm here advertising our suicide prevention walk, which will hold tomorrow morning at Rotary Park. We invite the community to come out. I retired 2 years ago here after coming since 1974, and I found that we do have a problem. Scott's a survivor. He lost his son 5 years ago. My wife and I lost a son 10 years ago. And we found that we have a problem in our community, in our state, and then our county. So with your support, I think we can reduce suicides in our community and save lives. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
I live on South Kiowa,
Uh-huh.
about a mile up from the high school.
Okay.
We need to do something about the speed that occurs in the morning and the afternoon.
Yeah, people in a hurry to get to school or work or whatever, coming down the hill. Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, we can probably do some increased enforcement there.
Bike lanes? What's going on there?
Well, Swanson's we're gonna be putting them in on Swanson. You wanna,
So yeah, we're similar to the ADOT project I talked about on Lake Havasu Avenue, where the town puts in a few dollars and gets a bigger bang for the buck. A similar project will be happening on Swanson between Smoke Tree and Acoma. You'll see.
I think it started this morning.
No, that's the water mains. They're putting in, selling new water
okay.
mains at that area for that 4-story on the
Got it.
views. So we're starting to design for that area. There'll be some pedestrian and some bike lanes that will be installed as part of that project, and I think that's probably a real good thing to have that in the vicinity of ASU in the downtown. So does that answer your question, or were you looking at something a little bit different?
Just doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but.
Doesn't make sense? Okay.
For bike lanes?
Yeah, in this,
Oh.
I came from a city with bike lanes everywhere,
Mhm.
and it seemed like it caused more problems. And I'm a former bicycle rider,
Mhm.
and it seemed like it caused more problems than it alleviated.
Yeah, well, I can only tell you that the cyclists in town would probably disagree with you. They want those bike lanes. And as ASU grows, I think the mode of transportation will be probably using bicycles, not cars. So we're trying to accommodate for that, for those changes as time goes on. Now McCulloch Boulevard, we're going to do more of a share the road type situation, but that's quite a bit a ways away from today. So yeah, we're just trying to be as accommodating as possible for as things change, because we hear from the cyclists quite often that they need to be able to get from here to there, and we don't have that many bike lanes in town.
Or
to be honest
sidewalks.
with you. Or sidewalks, correct. Well, they shouldn't be on the sidewalks anyway, I hope. So, yes.
I have a question. I was able to attend the first city council meeting
Oh, good.
this past
Yes.
week.
I remember.
I had trouble finding it because I didn't know which building it was in. I had an address, but there are no numbers on any of the buildings. So as a relatively new resident, I was a little frustrated.
Yeah, the address is right out on that big
And
monument.
for those of us that are driving and paying attention to the road, I never saw a number, so I
Okay.
kept looking at.
Yeah,
the
we can't make them
buildings.
any bigger.
I kept looking at the buildings, trying to.
But
get
yeah,
down.
yeah, it's at the police station.
Well, I know that now.
Yeah, and it says police station.
Right, but on your letterhead and all of that, it just gives an address. It doesn't say
Okay.
which building, and I went to the city building, and there's a chain around the door, and I wasn't sure where I was to go from there.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not really sure how to solve that problem, to be honest with you. I'm glad you found us. I wish,
Numbers on the building, perhaps?
I suppose we could. But again, as you come in, did you come in off McCulloch?
No.
Okay, so if you came off of Coma, yeah, okay, there may be, because if you come in on McCulloch,
Or.
the
yeah.
letters are massive.
Okay, or maybe one of the signs of, city council meeting or something, even if
Sure.
it's a temporary.
Yeah,
Just
okay.
something to help those of us who want to.
Yep,
be
let's-
involved.
Yep, we would prefer having more people there, because you were there and it wasn't crowded.
No, it wasn't.
And we would really like to see more people at the council meetings.
Just a suggestion.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you for that. Yes, sir.
On the building department, if you have a small project, you have to submit for review, with just like the big projects. Most cities have an over-the-counter for small projects. I'm gonna put a patio roof on the back of my house. I gotta wait to go through the review process. I don't understand why we can't streamline small projects, get them in, get them out like most cities do. They just do it over the counter, it's real quick. The other thing I have a question about is, if you have septic, you have to get the health department's approval. If I'm putting on a patio roof in the back of my house and my septic's in the front, why should the county health department have to wait for their review? I mean, we're supposed to be streamlining processes, and this is just convoluting it, so it seems like our processes could be a little more streamlined.
Well, I mean, we can look into the permit piece of it. I do know that on small commercial, they're in and out within about 4 days.
3 weeks.
When it comes to residential, yeah, we have a lot going on. We could probably look at the possibility. Having said that, finding people that can do plan checks, very difficult.
So you were told 3 weeks, or it took 3 weeks?
Well, so far it's been 3 weeks.
Oh, okay.
And they told me at the time it would probably be about 3 weeks, and I'm still waiting.
Okay.
So,
So a lot of times, and apologize for something that should probably take a lot less time than that. A lot of it's dependent not just upon the availability of staff, but the number of permits and applications that are coming in all at once. Sometimes our folks are swamped and are trying to, and then every second of the day is filled trying to accommodate all these different requests. And other times it's things can happen at the counter and at the desk. So some of it's just kind of bad timing. If you let me know the address and so forth, I can follow up and see the status of where that's at.
Now, in terms of the county health department, I'm not familiar, and it must be. I'm not honestly. I'm just not familiar with that. Are you in
yeah,
the?
it seemed really funny to me because they said, well, our protocol is if you have septic, you have to get approval from the city, from the county health department before we will issue you a permit. So I had to submit my plans and everything to the county health to put a patio roof on that's in the back of the house when the septic system's in the front of the house. I understand they don't want you building on top of septic systems and stuff like that, but when you've got something that's a clear no-brainer,
I'm not sure why
I
the
should have been
county's
able to get
involved.
this through and even, it should have been through in a day. They should be able to look at it, rubber stamp it, and push it through.
Well,
So
yeah,
the
we don't
protocols
want to
need to
rubber
change.
stamp it, but yeah, well, I'll have to look. And I'm not familiar with why the county's involved, unless you have some idea.
Sometimes it's those situations where if it's a septic system and then there's an improvement that they kind of gets tossed into one basket. So again, give me your address, give me your
We'll follow
some
up
information.
on it.
I'll follow up and make sure that we're doing it the right way.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely. This,
Hi, my name is Deborah Atwood. I'm here to kind of educate you all on our Forgotten Cash Cow that shows up in October. In
Jet ski
2.5
finals.
weeks, the IJSBA World Jet Ski Finals are coming to your town. You need to know that over the past 38 years, it's brought you billions, with a B, billions of dollars. It's bringing you 12.5 at least in 1 week. It's the biggest moneymaker that comes to your town. The most important part of this event is a little patch of dirt called Body Beach. People who come here that spend thousands of dollars, mind you, 22 gallons of gas for each one of them every day that they're here. Add that up, that's a lot of money, just in gas. But Body Beach is an integral part of that cash cow. The city has a $1 billion return on zero investment. I would love that kind of return on my money. I would like to know, first of all, I need to know if there is an addendum to the Rotary Park expansion plan. Mine is from 2006, so I kind of need to be updated on that. Who owns and Mark, next, I was at council tonight that you said, asked state lands, would it be a problem to acquire that 1.7 acres that we use to race? Would it be a problem to procure that as a permanent training facility for the jet ski racers? Arizona State Land that night said no, they didn't see a problem. I understand it's going to be expensive, but I also understand the return that little patch of dirt brings you. It's also the only place that your citizens can go, bring their vehicle right to the water and load their water weenies, their kids, their dogs, and at the end of the day, load them all up and leave. But it is your cash cow. Please be aware of how much money comes into this town for 1 week in October, and who owns the land, and what is the status of that little patch of dirt.
well, that Body Beach is owned by Arizona State Trust Lands. It's about a 19-acre stretch, that not a 1.7 acre stretch. It's 19 acres. The city has a lease on about 6 acres of that. And yes, we would love to acquire it. but I can tell you that it is more than expensive. It is incredibly expensive. The Arizona State Trust lands must sell it at the highest and best use. So, what's that? Through an auction. Yeah, so I'll give you an example. We bought 6.5 acres on the island so that we could put the footprint of a future second bridge. That was $3.7 million. And all we're going to do is put a piece of bridge on it. So we would love to acquire it, and we are going to continue to look at first the 6 acres, which is at the far end of Rotary Park. And then we'll have discussions for the rest of it. I don't know if that's still under lease by the Tates. I don't know if, is that, do you know, Cal?
I think it's been, that's expired.
That's expired, okay. So, but it's an interest to us. It's just finding the money available to do it.
Is there anyone in this room that might be able to tell us if we could bring in some heavy equipment just to clean the road?
Only if you want to be arrested.
Who brings their boats in? Who cleans that road for them?
That is considered private property owned by Arizona State Trust lands. Do not use equipment. They will, you will hear from them.
So, how can they come in? How can Lucas Oil come in and do it when we can't?
Exactly, they come in with heavy road graders and they make that road
No,
like a
It doesn't cost the city anything.
It doesn't, whoa. It has nothing to do with what it costs. It has everything to do with ownership of that land. So would you want, would you want a different agency coming to your home and moving dirt? No. That is owned by Arizona State Trust lands. I'm just telling you that if you trespass, you could find yourself in very hot water. Don't do it. Even on our lease for Arizona State Trust lands, when that area burned, we had to go through a long process to get an agreement just to remove the brush. So if you try bringing in heavy equipment, you heard it here, don't do it.
How does Lucas Oil get permission to do it and we can't get the same
Lucas
permission?
Oil didn't get permission.
They certainly did 4 years in a row.
Well, if they did it, they went through Arizona State Trust lands, but Lucas was at Rotary, not, they were at Rotary.
That was a pull-out ramp. They put an old ramp in to pull vehicles
Yes,
out.
that's on leased property by the city. We were able to do that. You're talking about the roads that go down where everybody launches. We don't have control over that.
They paved that, they graded that road for 4 years. Every year they graded it smooth.
We are talking about the road coming directly off.
All I'm going to tell you guys, if you want to contact Arizona State Trust lands, feel free to do that. Just don't do it without permission.
Can you get us a contact number, Mark, please?
I can tell you that. Just look it up on the website, Arizona State Trust lands. We
representative right here too.
Well, we're gonna have to try.
Yeah, I know it sounds like I'm being stern, and I'm doing it for a reason. They will come down on you hard.
They're very serious.
They are very serious. So
We understand that portion, Mark. We got 40 countries coming here that use that facility. And the road getting in there for them towing trailers with jet skis is absolutely terrible.
Well,
It's big ruts. All we want to do is fill in those ruts and make.
let me just tell you that I hear all that, but if you push too hard, they will begin asking why you're going in there in the first place. It is their property.
Gotcha.
Okay? You can't lose sight of that. It does not belong to the city.
Gotcha.
So push hard, and guess what? You'll see a big giant gate.
Contact Lucas Oil, see how they get it done.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes.
We got contact.
Chuck, go ahead.
Just for information, the guy that owned the Golden Corral, he's the one that's building the Starbucks there at Swanson in Lake Havasu. Anyway, you're talking about the development, the Lake Havasu Avenue between Mesquite and Swanson, and having a concrete divider there eventually and everything. And then from South Palo Verde up to Industrial having one.
Right.
Are you talking about maybe putting one between Mesquite and South Palo Verde also? Because that would be, it'd be a concrete divider, no concrete divider, then concrete divider again.
Yeah, and that's the intention of the plan, is to continue that type of design, but we're obviously limited like everybody else is with regards to the resources and funding available, so we're doing it a little bit at a time. And
But I was saying, you're going to continue that all the way up, instead of leaving that blank spot in between Mesquite and South Palo Verde.
the long-term plan is to address those types of, that type of design, 2 lanes in both direction, and then the hard median with the ability, controlled left turn lanes throughout that area. So, but we're doing it the right way, identifying outside dollars, state dollars to help us with these projects, as opposed to just going in there and blasting away and spending all the city's resources. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I'm a little concerned about the docks being built out in front of the heat. That's a place where you go from the big area down to the narrowest area of the channel. And I'm a little concerned about building out from that dock area out there, that if it's going to compress people trying to get through the channel, because it's already one of the worst places in the channel for people going out towards Thompson Bay from the lake, going that direction. And it narrows down from a big area by the London Bridge down to a real small area where it's hardly, when you have boats parked on both sides during the holidays, it hardly leaves room for 2 boats to get through there at the same time. And if we put docks out there,
I'm lost because the Heat Hotel isn't near that area.
yeah, it is.
No, it's by the London Bridge.
Yes, but the condos are, there's the heat, and then there's those condos there. But if anything starts protruding out from there, it's just going to slow the traffic down going through the channel.
Well, first of all, if they're going to make those improvements, they have to go through the Army Corps of Engineers. And one of the things they do is determine whether or not there's a impediment to traffic. My own feeling is if it slows traffic down a little bit in the channel, that's not a bad thing, because there are some weekends that they get so crowded. I remember years ago I had to put my son on the front of the boat so he could use his feet to just, but that's how they determine whether or not there's buildable space there, because at one point in time before the Holiday Inn went in, they were actually going to build docks there, and they had to go through a very long process through the Army Corps. I think it's the Army Corps of Engineers, and is it Bureau of Rec as well, or just Army Corps? Is it Bureau of Rec?
Just Army Corps.
Just Army Corps? Okay. And so they determine what the traffic flows are and whether there'd be an issue. So, and then we follow those guidelines.
Yeah, I'm just concerned about, compacting that area too great where those boats try to get through there. Our boat's been hit twice while it's parked. And it starts compressing it more and more. It's just going to make the situation worse.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mark, you guys started that project. I live on Sneed, and you guys just replaced the water main going down Prairie Creek. You guys haven't worked there in a week, and my problem is I take care of a lot of houses on my street for people who live out of state. And the construction company that came in there and did all the repairs, they tore everybody's front yards up. I paid $2,500 to re-gravel my front yard, and I've got piles of dirt laying all over the place. They didn't put the gravel back. 2 of the houses directly across the street, the front yards are trashed because they didn't re-gravel them. And they said they're not contracted to do that. They just had to smooth the area out and fill the street back in. And they left the front yards trashed. And that's not, the people that are going to come back in the wintertime and look at their front yards, they're gonna be pissed, they're gonna take it out on me, and I'm gonna take it out on you guys.
Well, let me, you know, first of all, we'll take a look at what you're talking about, but if you're talking about that area that's in the mailbox area, is that where, right next to the road where people put their mailboxes?
Yes.
Okay, that doesn't belong to them.
Okay, but the people paid good money to gravel their front yards to give it curb appeal, and now it's all dug up and piles of dirt
Right,
over it.
yeah, I mean, again, we'll take a look at it, but what they really did was put landscaping on city property.
Okay, what about the 3 colors of paint you've got 10 feet up in my driveway, all across the decorative gravel that I've got in front of my house?
I'm happy to take a look to see what got done. If you'll send us, or come see me afterwards with an address, or send me an email, we're happy to take a look at it.
Okay.
But, you know, one of the things we tell people all the time is that if you're gonna start putting a lot of decorative stuff in that area where the mailboxes go, one day it may disappear because it doesn't belong to them. It belongs to the city. If you ever want guess what? If you ever want curbs or sidewalks,
No.
where do you think they're going to go?
We have curbs and sidewalks on my street.
Okay.
And is it not the policy of the city to do improvements and put the land back the way it was when they started the improvement?
I think you're thinking of the sewer project.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're thinking of the sewer project.
Like shit.
So, but all I.
We'll get together after this.
Yeah, we'll take a look at it, and if there's something that is on private property that wasn't repaired properly, we're happy to fix it.
Okay.
Happy to do it. Okay.
Mayor, on 95, they're doing some drilling. Is that something that they're exploring or something, or can you enlighten me on those?
Yeah, that's ADQ doing testing of some soils.
Oh, okay. What are they looking for?
We'll find out. We have already tested Kiowa Ponds, and it's, you know, Kiowa Ponds was cleared almost a decade ago. If you recall, years and years ago, there was some leakage from the old McCulloch plant, and so we had to go through a restoration project, a remediation project on Kiowa Ponds. It was cleared some 10 years ago. They've come back again and challenging it again. We have, at the city's expense, taxpayer expense, $250,000 to show there is nothing wrong with that.
Are we paying that? I mean, does the city have
Well,
to pay?
what they're doing, we don't have to pay for that, but we went and spent $250,000 having a contractor bore into the soil to show that there is nothing wrong with that. Because one of the things that we wanted to do is to be proactive. If you wait and let them, you know, we'd rather have proof that, no, we're right, you're wrong.
What's the latest on 95 Food City area? What's the latest? Anything new? But ADOT?
Yeah, that's the.
Yeah, I see here in a couple months will be the first phase. We're hoping for a few more phases after this, but the initial phase will be that right turn lane southbound.
Yeah.
Right there. So that you'll probably see some activity here in the next 2 months.
Oh, okay.
The stoplight is something in that area we're still working on. That'll be some dollars we're trying to use through the MPO for the stoplight that didn't come from ADOT. So we're trying to identify alternative funding. So we'll see what that looks like, but that's going to be at least stoplight if and when it occurs, 12 to 18 months minimum. But you'll see the right turn lane here in a couple months.
Okay.
Ross, Chuck.
Suggestion, one suggestion. People that have complaints, most people have smartphones now. If they want to take pictures of stuff when they bring it and they can show you what they're talking about, I think it'd be helpful. But the other thing, for those of you who are off-roaders, like we are, in that there's supposed to be a new desert bar type place going out in the east of Havasu Heights. Supposed to be open in October. Kind of a bar type thing. Just kind of like Desert Bar. I don't know
Right.
what they're going to have for food and stuff like that.
I don't either.
It's someplace that's closer that people can drive to instead of having to trailer your vehicle all the way down to Desert Bar, you know, and stuff like that. So
Sounds like
I
you have
think
an
it'd be
investment
nice
in
for us here in town to be able to go someplace something a little closer.
Yeah, that's going to be, and by the way, that's in the county. That's not
Yeah,
city limits.
not in the city, but it's in the county, but it's another place for us off-roaders to go.
Sure, absolutely. Yes, sir.
My question is to you. The city normally has a water main replacement procedures in the street where they dig up and replace the main. I've noticed that now it's like on Smoke Tree and a Coma, south of the Coma, there was 2 mains that were replaced about a year ago. They've now settled to the point where when you go through with a vehicle, you're now depressing through. I was wondering if they ever have anyone in the city that goes back and reevaluates the patch job, because they're now starting to be settled down from the compression, and a year later, here we are. And if you're compressing on that hole, then you're compressing on that main.
Sure. Yeah, no, absolutely. We do have folks that go out there and look at these things with all the other things that are going on in the city as well, too. So, but yeah, there's certainly some stress that can be placed on that infrastructure. You said the Coma and Smoke Tree?
Yeah, and there's, like I said, one right just on Smoke Tree, just 50 feet south of Oklahoma, and then you go down several hundred yards where they changed another one.
Right.
And when they did the original patch job, it's held up, but because of the compression ratio, whatever they did a year ago, now it's getting to that point.
Now it's sunk in a little bit, and you got that almost.
So every time a car goes over it now, it's sitting on top of that main compressing, which might be flexing the line again. You're back to another main. So I'm just curious.
You're able to write that one down? Yeah. That's why we come to these events and things like that to hear from you. So we'll write it down. We'll take a look at it.
Yes, sir.
I just want to thank the police department for slowing people down on Oro Grande. They're out there quite often, and we have some real idiots coming up and down that street. I got passed the other night. I was making a left turn onto Pawnee in front of the school, and I was in the left turn lane, and they passed me on the wrong side of the road, going up the hill. Well, I was in the left turn lane. They passed me on the other side of the road, going around me, because I was going too slow in the turn lane. Okay, there's some real idiots out there, so we really appreciate the police department controlling that area, because they really need it. The people come down that hill way too fast, way too fast. So we appreciate the help.
Deidre.
While you're here, I want to thank you for your many years of service
to
our city. You've done an amazing job. I've seen a lot of mayors come and go in this town. You are certainly the best
thank
we've ever had, and I thank you so much.
No, I appreciate that very much. So. And by the way, the city clearly understands how important the jet ski finals are. We met with the promoter just a couple of months ago, trying to figure out some additional ways we could be helpful. So yeah, we get that, and we don't want them to go anywhere. 38 years here, World Jet Ski Finals. We don't want them going to San Diego or anywhere else. Right here is where
they've been faithful to have us through all that time.
Yeah.
Weather, rain, sleet, snow, if we had it.
Yeah.
They still come there.
Yeah, I think the snow part maybe, but even in a bad economy, they were here.
They come every year.
So, yeah, absolutely.
I started coming here in '89 and now live here, so just because of the jet skis.
Same thing. I came here in '87 and decided I'm buying a home and retiring here. Worked 30 years to get myself out here. Because this is a community of love and everybody takes care of everybody else. And that's what we want to keep seeing. We want to keep seeing these people coming in and enjoying our town, enjoying our lake, being safe out there, and going home safely.
Yep, exactly.
If they would just pick up their cigarette butts.
Yeah. Do we outlaw those things? Citywide?
Smoker or the cigarette butt?
Did you want to say? Chuck, go ahead.
June, maybe I misunderstood what she was telling me, but she read me something about, did you hear anything about BLM selling Sarah Park?
No.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. Sometimes she says stuff to me that I don't understand completely.
No, we applied for quote unquote a patent, and we have a BLM. Jason's here today from the BLM. That's been a long-term lease on that property, and what we did was apply for a patent, which basically means that it's conveyed to the city, and so we're down to the final process where they have to do a public hearing, blah 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 blah. But that basically would be conveyed to the city. There are clawback provisions if we don't do what we said we were going to do with the property, or we try to convey title to somebody else. You just can't do that. So that's all that's occurring. It's a how long has it been?
Do you want me to talk? I think you
Sure.
applied 5 years ago. Hi everybody, Jason from the BLM. I came here this morning not to represent the BLM, but just to thank the mayor for the opportunities my family's had in this area. We moved here 4 years ago, and my little girl has flourished in this area. The friends that we've made are going to be lifelong, and we're here to stay. We love it. So thank you for everything, and especially handing my daughter her kindergarten diploma, being part of the Patriotic Club, and taking time to participate with things that matter to me. I really appreciate that, so thank you. So Sarah Park is an awesome place. Everybody knows how great it's been. The city has been key in fundamentally developing that area for the benefit of everybody, from the dog parks to the RC park to the motocross track to everything that's over there. That's all been through the city and private interests working together with the BLM to provide the community a great place to recreate. So what basically happens with the land transfer process is we have the ability to transfer federal lands to municipalities for recreation and public purposes. It's not necessarily just for recreation. The city can use it for anything that's in the public interest, whether it be a school, a fire department, a police station, sewage management if it's needed, some of the harder things to talk about, anything that benefits the city and the public. The mayor touched on what's called a reversionary clause. The thing that's drug this one out, usually they take about 2 years to do. The reason this one's taking 5 is because of the shooting range. What happens is the federal office in Washington, D.C. does not apply the reversionary clause to the gun range. The reason being that lead contaminants can float downstream and get to the river. So if we transfer the land to the city, the federal government wants to make sure the responsibility for the lead contamination stays with the city, and so that's why it's taken so long. At the 2-year mark, they had talked about dividing it into 2 parcels, having the gun range in one parcel and the rest of the other to fast track it, but through the changing of the administration, it's all been lumped back into one, and we're moving forward with the patent. We've got approval through what's called the Federal Register notice process to classify the land. It's been classified as one parcel, and we're moving forward at our office. So at the end of the day, what it will do is it'll take the BLM out of the mix for approval for any new procedures, which hopefully, we haven't gotten in the way too much, Mr. Mayor. I think you'd agree at Sarah Park, if something comes to us, we pretty much are able to give the nod fairly quickly, but it takes us out of the mix and puts it back in the hands of people locally, which is what my goal is as a public manager for lands, to make sure that you guys have a voice in what we do on your federally managed lands. We never forget that in my office. One of the things you won't hear me say is BLM lands. I completely recognize that those are not BLM lands. They're lands that are owned by the public. We just have a small role to play in managing them. So that's what I'm here to do, and I'm here all week. If you want to talk to me about issues on your public lands, come see me at my office over on Kiowa, and I will make time for you. Thanks for letting me hijack the meeting for just a bit.
No.
That's Sarah Park in a nutshell.
Yeah, no, BLM's been a great partner for the city, so we appreciate
And
it.
I'm the local land manager for the Havasu area. It's about 1.3 million acres that surround the city, not in a bad way. Surrounded for access to your public land.
I don't know, some of the conspiracy theories I've heard.
So there's no money changing hands?
No.
And how many acres are we talking about?
It's 1,080 acres. And so this has been happening ever since the city was first founded with Rotary Beach, London Bridge Beach. All these things used to be in control, part of whole by the federal lands managers, and the city has steadily approached the BLM for access, Lake Havasu State Park as well, for access to these lands. And so the federal government has stepped up and said, yes, that's why the act was put into place, to allow municipalities to flourish and add green space and public use to the area. So we're happy to be a partner in making Havasu a better place to live, and that's why I'm still here.
Well, in Havasu Riviera, 280 acres there. Yeah.
part of this BLM?
Yeah, the Havasu Riviera, the portion controlled by the city, 280 acres, that's BLM property as well, or public lands, if you will. Yeah, so,
Managed by public.
yeah, but they've been great partners. But we've been able to utilize some of those properties. For those of you who don't know, the Sierra Park actually used to be controlled by the county. And we did not see the development that we had hoped for there. We were able to work with the county and BLM to get that transferred to the city, and now it's an absolutely wonderful park with lots of improvements planned for it as well. In fact, I'm meeting just after this meeting on another improvement. So, yes.
So since we have somebody from BLM here, I was wondering what's going to happen in Sand Point. It's been vacant now, pretty well nothing happening except for the boating facility. I was just wondering what's happening.
Yeah, that's Arizona State Parks.
Oh, that's a state park.
That's not BLM facility.
Does anybody know what's happening to that?
Yeah, they're continuing to work on that as far as I know. In fact, I think that you might know, was there some money budgeted for them from the legislature?
Well, there's the state park's going through a transition with fixing some of the things down there, but they're also there's some of the retail type of facilities that they're looking for the old guy to come out because the lease is expired and a new person to take over those vendors. So yeah, it's
been vacant for what, 2 years now or so?
Yes,
3 years now.
It's been vacant for a while, and I know they have plans, but they've got a lot of things in the works. We're primarily concerned about the new marina at Havasu Riviera, which is also Arizona State Parks. So, for those of you who don't know, this is our state senator, Sonny Borelli. So,
Are they going to combine that, because you got two, you got Tattale Cove and Sand Point.
Right.
I heard that they were going to combine the whole thing under one thing.
no, that's news to me. I think they're going to be run separately or whatever. But and that's where a lot of SLIF money is going. When yeah, sorry. He yells at me all the time for not. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Take over your mayor.
no, please do.
Let's give it up for the mayor one more time. With the new director, Sue Black, when she came on board after Governor Ducey got elected, you know, I fought real hard, and I said, I'm going to know on the budget. And they're like, why? Because I want to talk to somebody from state parks. And, of course, that's when Sue Black, and that's when the Riviera started happening, all these other projects. But so, you know, of course, then I started threatening to go after SLIF monies and try to get them back. And, of course, then I said, okay, well, let's negotiate here. If you put that SLIF money in our district, and La Paz County's in our legislative district, then I'll leave you alone. Now, I'm going to go on the record. After they fix everything down in La Paz County, I'm going after the SLIF money for Mojave County. So, but Director Black is doing a great job on trying to get some of these things done. Those state parks down there have been, you know, not maintained for years, and now we're trying to get some more money to kind of get things back up to speed.
Senator, do you want to explain what SLIF is?
So SLIF, I'm sorry, yes. All these acronyms, right? Okay, SLIF is State Land, State
Lake.
State, yeah, excuse me, too much coffee. State Lake Improvement Fund. It's fortunately your gas tax that goes towards that fund.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is there any time frame on those improvements at all?
I'm still talking with Director Black on that. There's a lot of contracts going back and forth with requests for performance RFPs. So we're talking 6 months. Yeah, because they want to, you know,
yeah,
how it works. Government works slow. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, to Senator Borelli's point, the SLIF money is a portion of the gas tax. By the way, it is my understanding, because we've talked about this in the past, the gas tax, another name for it is HERF funds, Highway User Revenue Fund. And that is now going to be, I believe, coming 100% coming back to cities and towns starting next year. Is that correct?
That's the plan.
That's the plan.
For now.
Yeah. I thought the governor actually agreed to that, so hopefully we'll find out.
Vote Ducey.
Yeah, so, because a lot of that had been swept for years and years and years. And, you know, it hurt us particularly because the state lake improvement funds, we were the primary generators of that and users of that, and it got swept.
75%.
But Senator Burley is correct. A lot of it got swept to be utilized at the Arizona State Parks area, and and that's fine with us as long as it's the state parks that are around us.
Yeah.
So because we made a lot of improvements with those monies. Dave.
Now that 409 has been approved, how much money are you saying that you're going to spend on these roads that we have? You know, roads to here needs to be improved.
Agreed.
And you know, that when new people come in here or visitors come here, they look at our roads and see how they look and how they handle with the vehicle. What's the game plan for that to get the roads back into better shape than they are now?
Yeah, I won't have control of the budgets going forward, but my guess is that now that there'll be additional state funding.
Where's Cal?
Hey, Cal.
I don't have a microphone.
Hey, Cal. Here. Yeah, years ago a boss did that to me and I said, what is that? And he says, I'm transferring the monkey to you. We do need to improve our roads, and now that we should have more money coming in for HERF money, I think you'll see some of that improvements. You know, and 409 will certainly help us because, in fact, the question was asked earlier, well, what is the passage of 409 going to mean? And a lot of people think that suddenly there'll be this flood of new projects and money. Really what it's going to let us do is just keep doing what we were doing. Had that not passed, new roads, no way. I mean, we would have been cutting services tremendously. So I thank the voters for overwhelmingly passing 409. Yeah, it's huge. It really is.
You know, I live off of industrial, and the problem is that there's so much traffic down that street that needs really improvement. I mean, we see fire trucks, ambulance, police, they're going down that main highway all the time. And I knew you did a lot of patch-up jobs on that street, but there needs more improvement on that street. And that's one thing I would like to see more happen on that.
Well, frankly, one area that really needs a lot of improvement is the downtown McCulloch area.
Yes.
That road, we test the roads as to what's the acronym, PCI or something like that. But anyway, to test as to the quality of the road, and that one's probably in the worst shape in town. So there's a lot of projects that need to be done. It takes time to get those done because what you try to do is there's so many different things that really need attention, and by the time you get through the list, you need to start over again. You know, that's kind of the way. You know, because we're a young town, or we were a young town, in the beginning it was really easy to build this or build that or whatever because your maintenance costs were pretty low. Now we've matured to a point where now instead of a lot of new stuff, you just got to maintain what you have, and then any extra money you try to put in a new park or whatever. So, but again, I think having the passage of 409 allows us to budget for that locally. And the economy continues to be strong here in Lake Havasu City. And I said it before the passage of 409, and I will say it afterwards. No new taxes. It did not mean new taxes. It just simply meant local control of the budgeting as opposed to having an unknown state commission do it for us. So, Chuck.
A couple of things. How much difference in the budget, what could we spend up to before under the old, and what can we spend up to the new, now we have that. Also, I hope they take some of that money and take care of some of our liabilities, like our pension requirements and stuff like that.
Well, let me address the second question first. We recently put $12 million toward the unfunded pension liability. And to be clear, yes, there is an unfunded liability, but that wasn't caused by us not making payments or anything the city did. We made every required payment we have had to make and then some. But the performance of the fund impacts that, new benefits impacts that. And while there is an unfunded liability, nobody should be concerned that people aren't going to get their pensions. You know, if everybody retired today and everything stopped, yeah, that's an issue. But that's not what's going to occur. The firemen are still going to be here. Policemen are still going to be here. We're still going to be making distributions to that fund. And but we will continue to make sure that it is solid in terms of making sure that we meet the promises that we made. Basically what the permanent base adjustment did, Prop 409, was effectively double the expenditure limitation. And I'm going to get the exact numbers wrong, but it roughly goes from 65 million to 121 or 20 million. And the reason we were able to stay under before is all the credits that we had used from the prior years, and those ran out. Now that doesn't mean, because the people a lot of times confuse the expenditure limitation and the budget. The budget is based on the revenues you take in on an annual basis, and the expenditure limitation is just a state limit. So we will stay under that limit easily, but really what that doubling of that limit was intended to do was to get us to the final build out of our community. So instead of going back to the community $1 million at a time for a permanent base adjustment, we said let's just do it once, and that should take us to the end of build out. So hopefully that's exactly what's going to occur. The other reason we wanted to do that is coming up in roughly 2022, we have a fund that is used to supplement our water fund. You pay it on your tax bill every year. It's called the IDD tax, Irrigation and Drainage District tax. That money goes straight into the water fund and helps reduce your water rates. That fund did not count toward the expenditure limitation because it is considered a separate governing board. Even though it was the city council, it was still considered a separate governing board under state law. When that fund disappears, and it will disappear in 2022, it will then count toward the expenditure limitation, which was why it was so critical that we passed the permanent base adjustment, because that's about a $15 million hit.
Will that IDD go off our
Yep.
way?
Yep. But there will be an impact on your water rates.
Right.
Because
Will you be able to pay that loan off that we had to borrow money for the Sierra Park project and all that stuff faster?
it's paid off.
Is there
It's paid off.
Okay.
It's
I know
paid.
we borrowed it and then we can pay it off, and I wasn't sure how quick. Something on the budget for that.
Yeah, we did it within 1 year. And again, that was to get around the expenditure limitation. But yeah, the IDD tax you will see a reduction on your property tax bill, but since that money was used to keep water rates low, the water rates are gonna have to come up, and the tax will go away. And you may say, well, why not just leave it the way it is? Is because back when we were incorporated in 1978, part of the incorporation was when all debt in the IDD was paid off, that fund must go away. And so we're down to only a few $1,000s. Frankly, we would love to see that fund continue, because it's a better way to replace water mains and have infrastructure, because even empty lots are paying for that. But in the end, it has to go away. We'll adjust water rates to supplement that, and but it's really taking it out of one pocket and putting it in the other.
I have a question. What's
Yes.
your thought on 127, Prop 127?
Wow.
When you talk about water, I mean, that's energy, I mean, it's.
You know, I need to do further research, but my initial reaction, and if somebody wants to debate it, feel free, but my initial reaction is no is the right answer. Because whenever, I'm always cautious when something's going to mandate a provision, a development, a change on taxpayers. Somehow mandates always seem to be unfunded. And
2025, it would have to be 50% renewable. And that means those.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, but that means those solar, you know, the big windmills that are ugly in like Palm Springs.
yeah, and I don't know. I just think that, and again, I personally need to do more research, but whenever I hear that it will be mandated, I always go, okay, it sounds like somebody's going to be taking money out of my pocket.
Much more than that.
Yeah. Yes,
I have a question. How big are you gonna make this city get to?
we're
We're
limited.
at 50,000 now.
55, yeah.
And when it was first developed, it said the orange balls, it'll never go past that. Well, it's gone past it.
Yeah, well, yeah, I don't know why somebody would say that because our city limits are past that orange ball, which doesn't exist anymore, by the way. We are limited to 96,000 residents because of land and water.
Is that full-time?
Yes.
Now, what happens when the snowbirds come in?
Well,
So now it's,
yeah.
you know, they use water too.
They use water too, but again, it will be based on the land and water use. And so there's only so many houses we can build on the land. Some are going to be owned by permanent residents, some are going to be part-timers. But we are using about half our water allocation, and we're well past that 96,000, or excuse me, we're well past one half of 96,000. We're at 55,000. And what I've seen over the years is that we as a community continue to do a good job of conserving water. You know, all bets are off when it comes to droughts and that sort of thing. But let me also make clear that whenever I say, well, we can grow to 96,000, people think by next Wednesday we're going to be at 96,000. We're talking about 3 to 4 decades. 3 to 4 decades.
And by then, global warming.
I won't be here.
Back in the water.
So it will take a while, and you know, here's the other piece of it that, you know, because I've been asked this question before. If we try to limit our growth to say 60,000, just picking a number, you're going to see attacks on our water allocation. Because they're going to say, well, you already said you only need to grow to 60. Why the heck do you need 28,000 acre feet? You're only using 14 now. Yeah, they'll take it away. They'll find a way to take it away. So we continue to say, no, let us grow at a manageable rate and stay away from our water.
Exactly. Our water.
I have a question.
Yes.
I really appreciate the efforts to beautify the corridor through town. I
Yeah.
think it really makes a difference.
It sure does.
Because we have a lot of friends that come in from all over and they really appreciate the view. I was wondering, two-part question. One is, on the entrance to the new Riviera, do they plan on doing any landscape along that corridor? And can we get some of that beautification along the south end of the city down there? You know, because it's pretty weedy and it looks pretty rough.
I would love to see beautification from monument to monument, to be
Yes.
honest with you. That is a ADOT highway.
Yeah.
And I've told this story before, but I'll tell it again. I swear it couldn't have been 3 weeks after I became mayor in 2006. I asked the ADOT engineer to come in to my office, and I asked him, why don't we have any of the landscaping that had been promised back when they built that road? And he told me all kinds of reasons, and I said, well, I don't, and a lot of it was cost, and I said, well, I don't get it. When I go down to Scottsdale and I see a brand new highway, they have the most beautiful landscaping, beautiful overpasses. We get nothing. And here we are now 12 years later, we've got something, but nowhere near what we should have. So we're working with ADOT because it sounds like I actually told them one time, they kept saying it was too expensive. I said, well, tell you what, go do a bid on materials only and we'll take care of it. We'll take care of it. They came back and said, oh, too much liability. But interesting, now they're allowing us to have materials and redo it.
Yeah.
So maybe times are changing, but if they've got more extra rock, we'll take it.
You bet.
Absolutely.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
On that, as a reminder, the Rural Transportation Summit is coming here next month. And so a lot of those people that make those kinds of decisions will be here in Lake Havasu.
Yep.
Yeah, state board.
Yeah, the state board will be here, exactly. Chuck?
Yeah, a couple things. Who owns the property between like 95 and Sweetwater in Maricopa? Is that state or DOT in there? That strip of land that's in between?
I think that's, he's
Okay.
talking about the frontage road,
The
Maricopa.
front, Maricopa and Sweetwater on the south side. That
I'm
area
guessing-
in there, that's,
The highway's gonna be pretty large in there.
yeah, cause that's where he's talking. That really
Yeah.
needs
Oh, yeah,
improvement.
it does.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Also, was there something in the paper about possibly going back to a fixed route bus system again?
That is being explored by the MPO, assuming there is available funding for that.
So they
go ahead.
didn't learn from history.
So what the MPO is doing right now is they just selected a consultant here this week or last week, last few days, selected a consultant that's paid for with MPO funds. Over the course of the next 12 months, you're going to see some invitations to open houses and different meetings. They're going to be trying collecting information from the public and trying to ascertain if transit is a good idea and to what degree is transit a good idea in Havasu. So based on that consultant's recommendations, the plan will be set forth and we can take a look at it. I know as I come here and I heard the stories of transit with like 80 some stops, I think that were in Havasu back at one time. That's way too many stops for a community this size. So it sounds like we had a very large transit program at one time, but probably far too big for the needs and wants of the community. So what I'm looking forward is somebody to come in and say, hey, you know what, transit would work or wouldn't work, but it would work, but to this degree, this phase or these types of things. Where it makes sense is in terms of getting seniors and those that are disabled to their doctor's appointments and run their errands.
Which we do already.
Which we do right now, but on top of that is then commuters to get people to jobs and then to get people to schools. So those are the types of things that make sense for a transit system. But over 12 months, we'll hear from the community. The community will tell us that it's a good idea, and if so, to what degree. Or the community's going to tell us, hey, we don't want transit. So we'll find out over the course of the next 12 months.
Yeah, unfortunately, Chuck, what you were referring to is what we did a few years back is we went from a fixed route system with, 80 stops or whatever number of stops, to now it's really a curb to curb. You call in, it's still only $2. We get people to their doctor's appointments, food, etc. A couple reasons we had to stop the fixed route. Number one, we went over 50,000 people, and so federal funding just flat disappeared. So then what we were doing was we were forced to spend, and I kid you not, about $1 million a year of local taxpayer money for a ridership of 300 people.
Right.
So $10 million in 10 years for 300 people, it didn't make any sense. So now what, I mean, we could have bought everybody a car. So we went to the system we have now. What, if we are able to do a fixed route system again, I agree with Jess, it would be a much scaled down system to probably focus more in the downtown area or where the industry is, where people are going to work. Honestly, in Lake Havasu City, as much as I would love to see a robust fixed route system, the reason it doesn't work is so many different reasons, but think about it. First of all, even with 80 stops, in many cases it took you 10 to 15 minutes to walk to wherever it was.
In 120 degrees.
In 120 degrees. And then you had another 10 or 15 minutes waiting for the bus, and then about 10 minutes to get where you needed to go. So now that adds up to 30 to 45 minutes. You can drive anywhere in town in 15 minutes. And with the curb to curb, and you think, I mean, I have a disabled, my cousin's disabled, he's a Navy veteran, he uses Havasu Mobility all the time. It works for him. I mean, it gets him where he needs to go. And as much as, and I really do like the fact that we did have a bus system at one time. I wrote it to just see who was riding it, why they were riding it. And, you know, I had people that said, well, it's the only way I could get to school. I'm trying to better myself, and hopefully I'll, you know, become more educated, get a better job, be able to buy a car. And, but in the end, when you're spending $1 million for a regular ridership of 300 people, it didn't make sense for the other 54,700 people.
Even in big cities, the bus systems are subsidized because none of them make money.
None of them make money, and we were okay with that. But when it jumped from about 200,000 or 300,000 to $1 million because of loss of funding, you had to rethink.
The other question I had is, remember a couple of copies. You were talking about ADOT was putting off the signal at the Riviera, and you were trying to get a right turn only in and right turn only out. Are we abandoning that and just going to wait for the signal?
No, our city engineer is in contact to see if we're able to do that on a temporary basis. There'll still be a signal. It just gives us, no, it'll be in December. We're just trying to get a 30-day window where we can open up 30 days earlier. That's really all we're trying to do to that.
30 days, 30 days.
Exactly. Yes.
Hi. A couple weeks ago, Joe Ohio was in town campaigning down at the channel. Okay, and hardly nobody was there. And it wasn't in the paper, it was just a word of mouth from a few people.
Okay.
Rita called me and said, Joe Ohio's going to be down at the channel. We went down there and had a hot dog with him and that. There must have been, what, 15 people there? About 15 people. Now, last night I was talking to a representative from the Republican Party who happens to be ahead of this meeting thing, and he told me, mark my words, Donald Trump will be here in 2 weeks. Have you heard anything like that?
Maybe he meant the Lord Mayor. No, I've not heard that.
If nobody knew about Joe, how would you know about
But because nobody voted for him.
Yeah,
well, the Secret Service would have to be here at least 2 weeks ahead to make sure all the baddies are out.
I don't think I'd hold your breath.
Yeah.
So, but no, I don't.
If it happens, I just told you.
And we'll be talking about it at the next coffee with the mayor. Speaking of which, the next coffee with the mayor will be at the hospital, the Saguaro room.
Yeah, so when you come into the hospital, you come in the front entrance, you'll go directly to your right. There's the volunteers sit at the front there. Before you even get to them, you go to the right, and there's a big brand new meeting room over there, and that's where we'll be. It's big.
Good.
Yeah.
Are they going to have coffee?
We will have coffee and goodies.
And goodies. Coffee and goodies.
Huh?
The date for that?
It's the first Friday, October 5th.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? We actually hit 9 o'clock, but I'll entertain one more question if anybody's got one. All right, well, thank you so much for being here.